most insane punishments during the reign of Timur. The horrifying and mysterious story of a cruel ruler whose rule was marked by cruelty is hard to understand. From scary skull pyramids to spine-chilling acts of terror, this part of history is filled with the haunting words of a man whose hunger for power knew no limits. Join us as we peel back the layers of this mysterious figure's reign and show the most insane punishments by Timur, the Isfahan slaughter, and the Towers of Skulls. When confronting resistant adversaries, Timur displayed a brutal lack of mercy. His troops routinely cast enemies from precipices, subjecting them to the horrors of being burned alive. Additionally, they would abduct women, forsaking their helpless infants to a cruel fate. One particularly favored method of retribution was the construction of pyramids fashioned from the skulls of those who dared defy surrender. A ghastly instance of this macabre practice unfolded in the year 1387, specifically in the city of Isfahan. Isfahan, a Persian metropolis, was a bastion of prosperity, intellect, and artistic diversity. Regrettably, its military prowess was no match for the formidable might of Timur's forces. As Timur's army encircled Isfahan, the city promptly submitted, swinging open its gates in surrender. Atypically, Timur demonstrated clemency, foregoing his customary bloodshed. Tragically, the city erred by rebelling against the warlord's imposed taxes, leading to the massacre of 3,000 stationed defenders. Timur returned to Isfahan, laying siege and swiftly capturing the city. During this occasion, all traces of mercy vanished as the Timurid forces annihilated a staggering count of approximately 70,000 individuals. Timur purportedly encouraged his soldiers to perpetrate his carnage, assigning each contingent a quota of severed heads to amass. An eyewitness account described a grim spectacle of 28 towers, each composed of 1,500 skulls. The true number surpassed this gruesome tally, but the individual tasked with the enumeration was overcome by revulsion and ceased counting. Some historians posit that the death toll in Isfahan might have surpassed 200,000, yet the precise figure remains forever elusive. What remains incontrovertible is Timur's relenting slaughter of any city imprudent enough to rise against his incursions. In subsequent campaigns, Timur adopted a more selective approach, sparing learned individuals and artists. However, instances existed when this apathy prevailed, leading to wholesale exterminations. In the realm of warfare, timing wields paramount importance, and Timur meticulously chose the opportune moment to unleash his invasion upon India. Spanning the years 1388 to 1394, this period witnessed a succession of 6 distinct sultans. Nasiruddin Muhammad's ascension to the throne plunged him into a tumultuous 3-year war of succession against Firuz Khan. Such was the chaos that the 2 sultans simultaneously wielded power, one in Delhi and the other in Firuzabad. In 1398, Timur initiated his invasion of India, capitalizing on the country's disarray. This afforded him the ability to swiftly traverse the nation's expanse. In April of that year, Timur entered Indian territory, traversed the Khyber Pass, and crossed into Punjab, pillaging the Pakpatan and Dilpapur regions. Overcoming the army of the governor of Meerut, Timur's forces reached Delhi in December. On the 17th of that month, a battle unfolded between Timur's army and the Sultan Nasir-ud-Din Mahmud Shah Tughlaq. Despite the Sultan's valiant efforts, the turmoil of the preceding years exacted its toll, resulting in Timur's victory. The events preceding the battle had become synonymous with infamy. Delhi's residents should not have been taken aback, considering Timur's reputation for brutality was firmly established. His path to Delhi was marked by the ravaging of cities like Sirsa, Fatehabad, and Tohana. In the latter, a grim example, 2,000 lives were extinguished. However, Timur's prelude to the Battle of Delhi transcended even his prior violent deeds. Anticipating a possible escape and assistance to the opposing side, he ordered the execution of 100,000 Hindu prisoners. According to N. Jayapalan's History of India, the land was subjected to a debilitating drain. Rampant plundering and devastation persisted for days. A Muslim chronicler recounted the construction of towering structures composed of Hindu heads, while their remains became sustenance for ravenous creatures. Those who survived the atrocities became captives of the Timurid Empire. The magnitude of the massacre may be attributed to an uprising. Delhi languished under the specter of this invasion for a century, grappling with its aftermath. Upon his conquest of Baghdad, Timur once again indulged in his preferred pursuits, the ruthless massacre of resistance and the construction of ghastly skull pyramids. By 1399, Timur and his formidable army had carved out a vast expanse under their dominion, yet his ambitions were far from satiated. Speculating on the extent of his potential conquest had he lived another decade remains elusive. Notably, his age at death, likely in his mid-70s or late 60s at least, lends perspective to his relentless exploits. Following the subjugation of Delhi, Timur's sights shifted towards territorial expansion in the Levant. In pursuit of this objective, he initiated a campaign against the Ottoman Sultan Bayezid I and the Egyptian Mamluk Sultan Nasir ad-Din Faraj in 1399. Along his trajectory, he invaded and subjugated Georgia and Armenia, amassing an estimated 60,000 individuals as slaves. His path then led to Syria, where he pillaged Aleppo and Damascus. Diverging from his earlier patterns, artisans were spared and transported to the empire's capital, Samarkand. Arriving at Baghdad in 1401 and met with staunch resistance, Timur's disposition had no room for clemency. Once the city was seized, approximately 20,000 inhabitants fell victim to slaughter. Echoing prior campaigns, Timur imposed a grim mandate upon his troops, a quota of severed heads to be presented by each man. Evidently, the terror Timur instilled in his soldiers manifested when they exhausted live targets and resorted to slaughtering previously captured prisoners. The unthinkable occurred when they even turned to beheading their own wives in a desperate bid to appease their leader. Some accounts assert a staggering death toll of 90,000 individuals, with their skulls contributing to the construction of 120 towers within the city. After triumphing over Bayezid and securing him as captive, Timur resolved to invade western Anatolia. Meanwhile, Baghdad fell to the clutches of Kara Yusuf, the leader of the Kara Koyunlu dynasty in 1402. Timur, characterized by his indomitable spirit, swiftly pivoted back to Persia to reclaim the city, entrusting his grandson Abu Bakr ibn Miran Shah with the task of recapture. A testament to Timur's advanced age, success ultimately crowned their efforts. The Knights Hospitaller had maintained their defense against the Ottomans for over a century, establishing a formidable stronghold on the Asian Minor coast close to Rhodes. This impressive bastion, located in a town once known as Halicarnassus and the birthplace of Herodotus, Bodrum, had successfully thwarted Turkish advances. Yet, in the face of Timur and his formidable army, their estimation of his strength proved to be a grave miscalculation. Arriving at the fortress in Smyrna in December 1402, Timur's adversaries were brimming with confidence, believing the formidable defenses would prove insurmountable. A deep chasm separated the castle from the mainland, and reinforcements and supplies were continuously varied by sea, forestalling any potential starvation strategy. Nevertheless, Timur's ingenuity prevailed. His engineers erected a colossal platform to obstruct the port and initiated a relentless bombardment. Consequently, they tunneled beneath the castle, causing its collapse. In a brutal storm in the city, inhabitants were massacred, and their severed heads were displayed on spikes. Surviving knights sought refuge in Bodrum. 2 years earlier, Timur laid siege to Sivas in Turkey, primarily defended by Christian Armenian soldiers. Assuring the inhabitants of a bloodless capitulation, Timur duped them, a promise he technically upheld. Instead of the sword, he decreed that the 4,000 soldiers be entombed alive. While the Christian soldiers met their doom, the Muslim populace was spared. Timur's conquest of Georgia posed greater resistance, compelling him to undertake 7 invasions. Eventually, King Bagrat V of Georgia, having briefly relinquished his crown, ostensibly yielded to Timur's demand for conversion to Islam. Yet the king clandestinely maintained his Christian faith. Timur dispatched 12,000 men to facilitate the conversion, only to witness their slaughter at the hands of the Georgians. Enraged, Timur exacted brutal retribution, ravaging the Georgian countryside, slaying the elderly, and enslaving those who did not resist. Despite identifying as a Muslim, Timur's most brutal deeds often targeted his own co-religionists. Following his campaigns against the Georgians, Timur shifted his focus to Syria, with Aleppo and Damascus as primary objectives. His actions within the latter city ultimately led to his condemnation as an enemy of Islam. The extent and nature of the Damascus massacre were harrowing. Accounts depict residents being crushed within wine presses or subjected to immolation. Rampant rape and mass killings became the norm, resulting in the deaths of thousands. Survivors faced enslavement, yet when mothers were seized, their children were abandoned to perish. Timur's directive also aimed at recruiting skilled artisans, craftsmen, and workers for his capital. In the early stages of his campaigns, Timur frequently commanded the mass execution of those who opposed his rule. However, his approach softened with time, permitting the survival of artisans and scholars. These individuals were typically transported to Samarkand. A prominent illustration of this shift unfolded in Isfahan in 1387, where the city's educated populace evaded the grisly fate of skull pyramids. So these were the insane punishments during the reign of Timur. As we move through history, it's important to remember the past if we want to make a more fair future. Don't miss the next video. Please subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and press the bell icon for more updates.